Welcome, everyone, to today's presentation on defending against ransomware in 2025, evolving threats and resilience strategies. Nice to have you with us today. I'm Rick from Project Spectrum, and I promise this is not going to be as scary as the latest horror movie that's out there, and I have absolutely no idea what that is. But I can tell you, ransomware can certainly give you nightmares if you're not prepared. So that's why today we're going to take a deep dive into the world of cyber threats that have more twists than a Marvel movie plot. But unlike the Avengers, we can't just pull a Tony Stark and snap our fingers to make the bad guys disappear. So thanks for joining us. We certainly welcome you today and appreciate you spending time with us. All right, so let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Not that I have a problem talking about myself, but I think it's just fine for me to introduce myself properly. So my name is Rick, and I'm part of Project Spectrum's outreach team. I also run strategic communications for Move America, which is a nonprofit think tank that also serves as the intermediary for the Office of Small Business Programs Mentor Protege program. You could always ask me about that later, though, because today we're here talking about Project Spectrum. Think of Project Spectrum as your cybersecurity wingman. We're the Department of Defense's officially recognized initiative that helps businesses navigate the maze of cybersecurity requirements. We're kind of like GPS for cyber compliance, except instead of avoiding traffic jams, we're helping you avoid becoming the next headline about a ransomware attack. Now, before we dive in, I just have a few housekeeping items, and I'm telling you, these are more important than remembering to mute yourself during those family Zoom calls, because let me just tell you, sighing and eye rolling, they get picked up on today's devices. First and foremost, we've got to let you know that this webinar is being recorded for future reference, and it's going to be posted to the Project Spectrum YouTube channel. Now, since we're coming to you from Project Spectrum's headquarters here in Maryland, which is a two-party consent state, I need to let you know that your participation constitutes consent to being recorded. See, even though your cameras are off and your microphones are muted, you're technically part of a recorded session. So we got to let you know about that. If you're not comfortable with it, no hard feelings whatsoever. Feel free to drop off now. You could catch the recording later on the YouTube channel, and I promise we'll still be friends. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now, for those who have stuck around and are staying with us, your microphones are muted because nobody needs to hear your dog's commentary on cybersecurity, and your cameras are off because I just have to say, yawning during my presentation, it's going to make everybody tired and me a little dejected. Now, I want to make sure you check how your name displays, because I have to say my iPhone 16 isn't exactly professional. And as you want throughout this webinar, drop your questions into the meeting chat. We will address them faster than you could say, have you tried turning it off and on again, or is it plugged in? Please do remember, though, in the chat to be respectful. Make sure that you are not self-promoting, self-aggrandizing, or putting anybody else down. Let's keep the decorum at all times. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. All right, so today's agenda, our roadmap for today, just think of it as our cybersecurity GPS. We're starting with Project Spectrum's mission. Then we're going to explore the current threat landscape. That's more dangerous than driving in rush hour traffic with your eyes closed. We're going to cover CMMC requirements, which is the new sheriff in town for defense contractors. Then we're going to dive into the star of today's show, which is ransomware. It's like that uninvited guest at your party who locks all your doors and then demands payment to leave. And we have had those, haven't we? When you're sitting there yawning, saying, "Oh, I think I'll go to bed," and somebody says, "Well, do you get Netflix?" Finally, we're going to arm you with some defense strategies that, trust me, these would make even John Wick proud. So really hoping that you're going to stick with us throughout this ride. All right, so let's talk about Project Spectrum. We are not just another government acronym, because trust me, we have more than enough of those. We are actually here to help, which is rarer than finding a parking spot at the mall during the holidays. See, the Department of Defense Office of Small Business Program supports and promotes us, Project Spectrum, because they realize that protecting our nation's defense industrial base requires more than just hopes and wishes that everything will be okay. We are built on solid foundations with 3 key citation authorities, making us more legitimate than a $3 bill. And trust me, we are real. Our mission is simple. We are here to bolster homeland defense by making sure businesses have the cybersecurity tools that they need. We're like the Swiss Army knife of cybersecurity education. We're versatile, we're reliable, and hopefully more useful than those tiny scissors or the toothpick that would be really gross to use more than just once. So appreciate you again checking out Project Spectrum. ProjectSpectrum.io is our website. If you're not registered, you need to be. All right, so let's educate ourselves a little bit. Let's talk some numbers. And these are not the kind you want to see on your bathroom scale. Small and medium businesses are under siege. 43% of all cyber attacks target SMBs, which makes sense because that's where the money is. You know, as the famous bank robber Willie Sutton might say if he were alive today, hacking computers instead of banks. See, here's the kicker. You've got 74% of breaches that are caused by human error. That's right. We are often our own worst enemy. It's like using our birthday as a password or clicking on that email from the prince from a foreign land who definitely isn't royalty and is not going to give you his inheritance if you give him your bank account routing number and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you understand that. And on top of that, you've got the need for proper cyber insurance. Only 17% of SMBs actually have that proper cyber insurance. Your property and casualty insurance for your business is not going to cover cyber attacks. It's like driving without a seatbelt while texting, not exactly a winning strategy. So you got to make sure that you understand you need to protect yourself. And again, why are SMBs targeted? Okay, they're like the side door that burglars use when the front door is too secure. They see SMBs as stepping stones to bigger targets. It's the cybersecurity equivalent of using the neighbor's unsecured Wi-Fi to hack into Fort Knox. Now, three key reasons make SMBs really attractive targets. First, their supply chain access points. If you compromise one vendor, suddenly you have a backstage pass to multiple organizations. Second, their intellectual property has both black market value and state-sponsored campaign value. Remember, you might think that your secret sauce recipe is not very valuable to anybody outside your family, but it's going to be more valuable than you think. Third, limited cybersecurity resources mean that detecting threats is kind of like trying to find Waldo in a crowd while wearing a blindfold. Not Waldo wearing the blindfold, you wearing the blindfold. I could never find that guy. I always try to look and it just never goes well for me. So what are the top threats to small and medium-sized businesses? Well, you got to remember that the threat landscape has way more variety than Netflix does these days, and they've got a lot. We've got phishing and social engineering, the digital equivalent of the wolf in sheep's clothing, except this time the wolf has learned to use email, and he sounds very convincing. You've got ransomware, which doesn't just lock up your data like a digital safe. It can shut down your entire production line faster than getting locked out after forgetting your password. And we have all done that. Supply chain vulnerabilities can turn your trusted partners into potential Trojan horses. Intellectual property theft, that can damage your competitive advantage permanently. And that operational disruption creates a domino effect that makes everything else fall apart like a house of cards in a windstorm. All of these threats are real, they are serious, and they're something you need to keep mindful of. Now, that's why we entered the world of CMMC, the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. Think of it as your driver's license for handling sensitive government data. Except for this, the road test includes defending against hackers instead of parallel parking, which I have to say, I'm not sure which one of those would actually be more difficult. So CMMC has 3 levels, right? It's like a video game where each level gets progressively harder, but instead of fighting those bosses, you're fighting cyber threats. Level 1, we've got foundational, the basic level that says, congratulations, you know cybersecurity exists. Then you've got level 2, which is advanced. And this is where things really get serious. It's like realizing you need more than just an antivirus software from 2010 to protect your computer, your device, your network, your data, your people, your company, your reputation. I could go on forever. Level 3. Now, this is something that not a lot of SMBs are even going to need to hit. But if you do, because it's in the contract, level 3 is expert. This is the cybersecurity equivalent of earning your black belt with an additional 24 requirements that would make even IT professionals break into a sweat. Most SMBs are only going to need to hit level 1, maybe level 2. Level 3, like I said, whole other playing field that's usually for the really, 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 really big contractors who are going after super sensitive stuff. Now, the assessment requirements increase with each level. Level 1, annual self-assessments, full third-party assessments every 3 years at level 3. And level 2 is kind of a mix. It depends on what type of data you're handling. So the difference, it's kind of like the difference between checking your own homework and then having that strict teacher with that red pen that never seemed to run out of ink. So let's take a look at the type of data that you could have. Decode the alphabet soup of government data classifications. You've got FCI, which is federal contract information. This is the sensitive but not classified information that the government shares with its contractors. Think of it as the government's way of saying this is important, but we're not going to lock it in a vault. We don't want you just sharing it though. Then you've got CUI, controlled unclassified information. That's definitely a step up. It's a much broader category of sensitive information that requires special handling. It's kind of like that email you get from the HR department that says confidential at the top. Yep, you want to make sure that you keep it confidential. The examples range from contract information to law enforcement sensitive data. It's covering more ground than a GPS with a broken antenna, right? CUI is definitely something you don't want getting out there. The government doesn't want it getting out there. You don't want anybody knowing that you've ever leaked CUI because, again, that could be really, really problematic for you. So then you've got your compliance requirements, right? Understanding your data is, again, like knowing what's in your refrigerator before cooking dinner. It's essential for making all the right choices and knowing when you have to go out and get something else. If you handle FCI data, you definitely need CMMC level 1 compliance. Again, cybersecurity equivalent of getting your learner's permit. Handling CUI data, that's when you're looking at level 2 compliance, which is more like getting a full driver's license with the responsibility that comes with it. And then it, again, depends on what type of CUI data you handle as to whether or not you're doing a self-assessment or whether you are getting a third-party assessment. The key takeaway is that you need to know your data. You need to know your requirements. It's just that simple, but it's also that complicated. So September 2024 marked a historic moment in cybersecurity because CMMC officially landed like a spacecraft on the government contracting planet. The DFARS rule went live September 10th. Phase 1 launches November 10th, 2025. Trust me when I say, for a lot of people that's making you sweat, it's not a lot of time to get your cybersecurity house in order. Being proactive about CMMC, though, isn't just good business sense. It's all about survival, because you got to realize that companies that prepare now are going to have that competitive advantage over those still wondering what CMMC even stands for when contract opportunities start requiring compliance, and they will. It's like studying for the test instead of cramming the night before, except the test determines whether you could bid on government contracts. So let's jump into the main event today. Ransomware. This is the villain that makes Darth Vader look actually kind of friendly. And I'm not talking about the Darth Vader at the end of the, well, was it the 3rd movie or was it the 6th movie? It depends on where you go, whether it's prequel, sequel, I don't know. Anyway, it's not science fiction. Ransomware is the reality facing businesses every single day in 2025 and years beyond. See, you got to understand, ransomware is digital extortion with a 21st century twist. It starts innocently enough. Usually you get an email that looks more legitimate than your actual bank statements, right? Once you click on something and that malware starts to infiltrate your system, it's like having a digital locksmith who only knows how to lock things and not unlock them. See, the process for ransomware is diabolically simple. Encrypt your files, lock you out of your own data, and then demand payment for the digital keys. It's like someone changing all the locks in your house and then sliding a ransom note under the door. And here's the kicker. Paying the ransom doesn't even guarantee you'll get your data back. Do you really think these people are on the up and up? It's like paying the bullies lunch money with no guarantee that they won't come back tomorrow asking for more. And then you've got even more stuff with it. You've got extortionware where they say, okay, we've given you your data back, but we still have a copy of it. And now you got to pay us more money or we're going to release it. Ugh. They just keep coming up with new things, and we have to really try to stay ahead. You got to remember, when it comes to ransomware, prevention isn't just better than the cure. It's often the only cure that actually works. So let's take a look at this ransomware kill chain. Ransomware attacks follow a very predictable pattern. It's like a Hallmark movie or a heist movie with 5 acts. You know what's going to happen. You already know that the person who lives in the big city is going to move to the small city and fall in love and give up their entire career. We all know how that goes. First comes initial access. This is usually through spear phishing emails or unpatched vulnerabilities, and those are out there everywhere, particularly in manufacturing. Think about the computers that you have running your production facilities. How many of them are still on Windows XP? Again, it's the digital equivalent of finding an unlocked window, and these threat actors know how to pounce upon that. Now, the execution phase is where attackers deploy their payload and start moving through your network like uninvited guests, exploring your house and looking through your medicine cabinet. Encryption tends to come next. This is where they're taking your files and they're locking them up tighter than Fort Knox. But here's the modern twist. Exfiltration happens first. So even if the encryption fails, attackers still have your data as leverage. Finally, you get extortion. This is where the bad guys contact you through the dark web portals that make online shopping look like child's play. They might even threaten to call your customers or regulators, adding public embarrassment to the financial loss. They have no problem standing up on a stage and telling people what they have done with you, your system, and your data. So now we talk about the business impact. Let's talk money, because money makes the world go round, and ransomware hits your wallet harder than impulse buying on Amazon during Amazon Prime days. In 2025, large organizations face ransom demands that exceed $5 million. That is more than most people's retirement funds. Then you get the smaller entities. You typically see demands between $50,000 and $500,000, which might seem manageable until you factor in everything else. On one of our previous Cyber Circuits webinars, our guest talked about the fact that sometimes the folks that get into your network, they're finding your insurance policy and seeing how much you're covered for, and then that's what they make their ransom demand for, because they know that you have the coverage. They're sneaky. Let me just say this. Real costs of ransomware go beyond the ransom. You've got the downtime, tens of thousands of dollars per hour, especially in manufacturing, where every minute of stopped production equals lost revenue. You've got regulatory penalties. You've got legal liabilities. You've got brand and reputational damage. Who is going to want to do business with you? That's where customer trust erosion comes in. And then you've got the insurance complications that can turn a bad day into a catastrophic year. It's a financial perfect storm. Everything that can go wrong does go wrong, and it does it all at once. And it is ugly. Now, ransomware becomes more than just a cybersecurity problem. It's a compliance nightmare that makes tax season look simple. You got to understand, for defense contractors, DFARS and CMMC requirements mandate reporting cyber incidents within 72 hours. Now, that's faster than most people decide what to watch on Netflix. Or remember the days of Blockbuster when you used to go there and pick out a movie? Yeah. It takes less time than that. Healthcare entities that are under HIPAA, which is the Privacy Act for healthcare information, they have to treat ransomware incidents as potential breaches unless proven otherwise. So basically, in the cyber world and in the cyber court, you're now guilty until proven innocent. The 2024 Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act adds another layer of complexity. This requires certain organizations to report to CISA within very tight timelines. The regulatory web gets even more tangled when you start to go international. And again, we're throwing alphabet soup at you: GDPR, CCPA, PIPEDA, EIEIO. They all have specific breach response obligations with deadlines that are shorter than most people's attention spans. When you get those cross-border data concerns, that means you're dealing with multiple jurisdictions, and multiple jurisdictional laws might apply, which creates a legal maze that would challenge even the best attorneys that are on the most expensive retainer. Non-compliance results in really bad stuff: fines, legal exposure, and again, that reputational damage that compounds the original attack's impact. It's like getting a speeding ticket while your car is already broken down on the side of the road. You just really don't want to have it happen. So, the state of ransomware in 2025. Ransomware this year has evolved faster than smartphone technology, and you know how fast that's gone. Ransomware as a service now has democratized cybercrime. This is making it easier for criminals to launch sophisticated attacks than it is to set up a legitimate business. It's kind of like Uber for the bad guys. They've got easy access to entry anywhere while increasing the threat to everyone else. Your average ransom demands for large organizations, we said this before, it exceeds $5 million, making a lottery jackpot seem pretty reasonable by comparison. Double and triple extortion tactics have become standard practice. Again, they're encrypting your data first, then they threaten to leak it, then they go after your customers and partners. It's like being mugged 3 times by the same person after you escape for just a little bit. Then you've got AI. We love AI, except when we don't. AI enhancement of phishing has made attacks even more personalized than your social media ads. It creates spear phishing emails that are so convincing, they sometimes even fool cybersecurity professionals. And that is scary because those people are usually on the ball. So then you've got your supply chain vulnerabilities, right? Modern ransomware campaigns have learned that attacking targets directly is like trying to break down the front door when the side window is wide open, unlocked, and has a big arrow pointing to it saying enter here. Supply chain attacks basically exploit the trust relationships that businesses have built. It turns your vendors and partners into unwitting accomplices, or turns you into an unwitting accomplice to your vendors and your partners. Software supply chain attacks hit update servers, distributing malicious code throughout the same channels you trust for those legitimate updates to your systems. Managed service providers are particularly attractive targets because compromising one MSP can provide access to dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of clients. It's like getting a master key to an entire apartment complex. The solution involves treating your supply chain security as seriously as your own and making sure that you understand what role you play in your supply chain's security. Cybersecurity clauses in contracts and continuous monitoring that would make a helicopter proud are an absolute necessity. So make sure you are taking care of yourself. Now, for the good news. We are not defenseless against these digital villains. We really are not. Think of this section as your cybersecurity superhero training montage, where we transform you from potential victim to cyber defender. Okay? Just picture that one in your mind. Or think about Captain America and Chris Evans going from the scrawny 98-pound weakling to big, bulky Chris. First, you've got your critical first steps. Every superhero origin story starts with the basics. Ransomware defense is absolutely no different. You start with a ransomware-specific risk assessment that identifies your crown jewels and potential weak spots. It's like mapping out your house before installing the security system, which is really a good idea. You enforce multi-factor authentication everywhere, especially for privileged accounts. MFA is like having a bouncer at every door who actually checks the IDs and takes a look and says, you do not look like somebody who served in the Vietnam because you are 17. Review and update your incident response playbooks, because having an outdated plan is like using a map from the 1990s to navigate today's streets. We can't stand it when Apple Maps isn't updated, or Google Maps isn't updated, or Waze says, we found a way that's 7 minutes quicker. Do you want to take it? And then they just redirect you, and you end up on a one-way street going the wrong way because they didn't have an updated map. Make sure you're testing your backup and your recovery processes quarterly, okay? You need to make sure that you're doing this more often than people check their tire pressure, but less often than they check social media. Schedule regular phishing simulations and awareness training, because let me just tell you something. The best firewall is an educated user who knows not to click on suspicious links. You want to make sure that you're constantly testing that. It is paramount to success. Then you've got zero trust architecture, right? Zero trust is the cybersecurity equivalent of the trust but verify approach, except we've dropped the trust part entirely. Zero trust assumes that your network has already been compromised. I understand that sounds like you're being a little bit paranoid, but it's appropriate in today's threat landscape. Under zero trust, access gets granted based on least privilege principles. Authentication and authorization happen continuously, and networks get segmented like airport security zones. Monitoring of it is constant. You are not walking in where it says exit only. It's just not going to happen. It's like having security cameras, locked doors, ID checks at every single step of moving throughout your network. It sounds excessive until you remember that the alternative is ransomware, and we've already talked about just how ugly and how terrible that is going to be. Then you've got your endpoint detection and response, or EDR. See, EDR solutions are like having a security guard that never sleeps, never takes breaks, never has to go to the bathroom, never has to eat, and has a completely superhuman pattern for recognition abilities. EDR solutions continuously monitor endpoints for malicious activity, respond to threats in real time, faster than you can say, is it plugged in, or have you tried turning it off and on again? See, EDR helps by detecting mass file renaming and rapid encryption. That's the digital equivalent of someone frantically changing all the locks in your building. It really prevents that lateral movement through your systems and your data, and it keeps attackers from spreading through your network like a virus through an office. And trust me, we know how that goes. We all end up with a sneeze, a sniffle, and a cough before you know it. Post-incident analysis. This is really going to help you improve your future defenses. This is about turning every single attack attempt into a learning opportunity and then actually learning a lesson from that opportunity. You want to make sure you do it. Incident response planning. A good incident response plan is like having a fire drill for cyber attacks. It's going to remove panic from the equation and ensure that everyone knows their role. Your plan should be ransomware specific, because generic incident response plans are like trying to use a universal remote for everything. Theoretically possible, but again, practically useless. You push the wrong button and push the wrong button and push the wrong button, and you're in all kinds of trouble. You want to make sure you're defining clear roles. Remember, IT teams handle containment. Legal handles compliance. Public relations manages media relations and putting out the statements. And it's the executives within the organization that need to make the tough decisions. Everybody has to play a role. Pre-establish relationships with law enforcement and cyber insurers. That's always going to help you out. And yes, even make sure that you're having those protocols for engaging ransomware negotiators if needed. Sometimes you do need the professionals to handle those professional criminals, and there are people that can do it. Think about all those movies where they, have a hostage situation and they bring in the professional negotiator and everything turns out just wonderfully because Steven Seagal did not have to go in and just start beating up everybody. A solid incident response plan provides both a playbook for crisis management and faster containment and recovery capabilities. It's the difference between organized chaos and just plain chaos. Now, when you're talking about your backup and recovery strategies, backups are your last line of defense against ransomware, but only if they're properly designed and tested. You've got the 3-2-1 rule, which ensures redundancy. 3 copies of data, 2 different media types, 1 stored offsite. It's like the cybersecurity equivalent of not putting all your eggs in one basket and then not putting all your baskets in one truck. Regular testing, absolutely essential, because discovering your backups are corrupted after a ransomware attack is kind of like finding out your spare tire is flat when you're already stranded on the side of the highway. Cloud backups, they offer convenience, but they need to be secured, so they need to be encrypted. MFA, role-based access controls. Unsecured cloud backups are nothing more than gifts for these cyber threat attackers and just threat bad people with internet access. They're going to get a hold of that, and that is not going to be something that you want. Now, here's an uncomfortable truth that I'm going to have to share with you, and you're going to have to take this with a grain of salt because I'm very sorry. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm just letting you know this is the truth. Technology alone cannot stop ransomware. Humans remain the weakest link in the security chain. And you know what happens? You are the weakest link. Goodbye. We're like the screen door on a submarine of cybersecurity, well-intentioned, but fundamentally flawed. And apologize there if I sounded like, a glorified would-be game show host. Social engineering has become increasingly sophisticated, with AI crafting phishing emails more personalized than birthday cards from your grandmother, because she still does that. The solution involves cultivating a security-first culture where everyone feels responsible for cybersecurity, not just the IT department, because it is not just the IT department's responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility within your organization. Make sure that you consider gamified training with friendly competitions and reward-based reinforcement. Make cybersecurity awareness as engaging as those fantasy football leagues, which I don't take part in, but I know a lot of people do and love. If you do something like that, if you make it fun and you make it where people want to participate and everybody has a competitive nature, you're going to see those participation rates increase dramatically. You're going to start to see results because, again, people want to make sure that they are on the right side of everything. So when you're talking about cyber insurance in the age of ransomware, cyber insurance this year in 2025, it's become more selective than college admissions. Insurers are tightening their underwriting requirements because ransomware losses keep going up. Policies may exclude payments to sanctioned entities and limit coverage for ransom amounts because even insurance companies have learned not to negotiate with digital terrorists. You got to understand, insurers now require evidence. They require you to show that you're using MFA, you're using EDR deployment, you've got vulnerability management, you've got tested incident response plans before they issue your coverage. Your car insurance is going to require seat belts and airbags, and it's common sense that that's become now a contractual obligation with a vehicle. It also is contractual with your data, your systems, and your people. So you need to understand that many insurers offer incident response teams as part of your coverage. They will often provide legal, forensic, and even public relations specialists. Claim approval often depends on thorough documentation of your security controls and your incident handling your incident handling steps. So you need to make sure that you're keeping those really good records. It's not just a best practice. It actually is financially essential because without it, you may not get that cyber insurance, and that is going to sink you if you have a problem down the road. So let's walk through a real world example that demonstrates how theory translates to practice. We're going to examine the Interlock ransomware case study, which shows us that CMMC requirements are not just bureaucratic box checking. They are practical defenses against real threats. So everybody who says, is CMMC really worth it? Yes. because this case study is like getting the playbook that shows exactly how the attackers think, exactly how the threat actors work, and exactly how your defenses should respond. So let's give you an overview. Interlock ransomware was first discovered in 2024 in September. That's fresher than some people's morning coffee, but it was already causing significant damage across various organizations and critical infrastructure. It's not some theoretical threat from a cybersecurity textbook. This is happening right now to businesses just like yours. See, the strain specifically targets SMBs with limited IT staff. And if you're a business that has 5 employees, 10 employees, everybody's wearing different hats. Your IT admin is also the person who cleans the windows on the weekend. They're looking for the organizations that are stretched thin and don't have that 24/7, 365 security monitoring. They also focus on organizations that store or process CUI, because that is, again, where the really valuable data lies. And they love environments where legacy systems mingle with cloud workloads. It's like having both old locks and new smart locks on the same house. It creates a complexity that attackers can exploit. You have a smart lock on your front door with a deadbolt. You have just one of those little chains on the back door. Guess which door they're going to try to go into. Now, the attacker's playbook is disturbingly straightforward. They phish users for initial access. Then they exploit an unpatched VPN appliance, and then they move laterally through the networks via remote desktop protocol. And then here's the kicker. Again, they're exfiltrating your CUI data before encryption to raise the ransom stakes. It's double extortion with a government data twist that would make Tom Cruise's head just spin. CMMC as a defense. This is all about incident response. In late July, a hashtag Stop Ransomware campaign advisory provided an interlock playbook that served as more than just a threat report. It was essentially a cheat sheet showing where organizations are vulnerable and how they can prove due diligence to CMMC assessors. It's like having the answer key to the test before you take it. See, here's where CMMC becomes your cybersecurity superhero cape or shield or your suit of armor. So let's start with IR.L2-3.06.1. This is the requirement to establish an incident response plan. Interlock caused extended downtimes for victims who lacked a rehearsed plan. It's like trying to evacuate a building during a fire drill when nobody knows where the exits are and the lights are off and there are no glow sticks anywhere. Nobody's cell phone has a flashlight on it. See, CMMC level 2, it really demands documented procedures to detect, respond to, and recover from incidents, plus evidence that those procedures are actually tested. It's the difference between having a fire drill and just having a sign that says exit, which may or may not lead to an actual door. Now, when you're talking about backups and MFA, you've got 2 more CMMC controls that would have stopped interlock in its tracks. CP.L2-3.11-1 Morse code, requires regular, isolated backups. Many interlock victims paid ransoms because encrypted data was their only copy. Imagine having all of your family photos on one device, no backup when it crashes. CMMC requires backups maintained to ensure data availability in the event of a disruption. Off-network, immutable copies are absolutely key to success. Then you've got AC.L2-3.05.3, which enforces multi-factor authentication. Phishing for passwords remains Interlock's favorite opening act. It's like a magician's preferred trick because it just works so reliably and really distracts everybody. When MFA gates every remote or privileged login, stolen credentials alone no longer provide entry. You've got a bouncer at the door. He checks both your ID and your invitation, and suddenly the fake ID doesn't work anymore because without an invite, you still can't come in. Then you've got vulnerability management and logging, the final two CMMC controls that complete our defensive lineup. SI.L2-3.14.1 focuses on identifying and managing system vulnerabilities. The interlock advisory specifically highlights unpatched VPNs being exploited for initial foothold. It's like leaving your front door key under the welcome mat. Don't do that anymore when those fake rocks look fake. CMMC Level 2 calls for scanning, prioritizing, and remediating vulnerabilities on a defined schedule that would have closed the attack vectors. Then you've got AU.L2-3.03- dashes, dots. Good grief, mouth is not working today. Requires reviewing and analyzing audit logs. Here's the frustrating part about interlock. Their dwell time averaged 2 weeks, but they were often detectable in logs much earlier. It's like having a security camera that records everything, but nobody's actually watching the footage until after the break-in. You've got to have that continuous log review, and that is another level 2 requirement for CMMC. It will significantly narrow that detection window. Now, the beautiful thing about this case study is that every step you take to reduce ransomware impact also strengthens your CMMC compliance posture and vice versa. It's a win-win situation, rarer than a solar eclipse, improving your security while meeting regulatory requirements simultaneously. So, what are our key takeaways? As we wrap up our cybersecurity journey today, remember these key points. Ransomware continues evolving faster than fashion trends, and those are tough, requiring us to adapt continuously. You really do need to adapt continuously, not to fashion. Some of us like classics, but you need to make sure that your cybersecurity, your cybersecurity and your ransomware detection, it has to keep evolving. Cybersecurity is not a destination, it's a journey. You don't win cybersecurity. There's no end point other than everything is ruined. Prevention and resilience must be equally prioritized. It's like wearing both a seatbelt and driving defensively and having a nice cushy airbag that is also going to, open up and deliver you popcorn. The strongest defenses combine human vigilance with technical automation. Remember, incident readiness reduces both impact and recovery time. Invest in both prevention technologies and resilience capabilities. And remember that continuous adaptation isn't just recommended in this ransomware era, it is absolutely essential for survival. Ransomware defense is an ongoing process. It is not a one-time project. Attackers are continuously adapting their tactics, so you must continually improve your defenses. It's an arms race where staying static means falling behind. If you are not staying ahead of the curve, you are behind the curve. You are trying to catch up, and it is very difficult to do from that far along. So this is where Project Spectrum comes in. See, Project Spectrum offers comprehensive resources to help you implement everything we've discussed today. You have questions, we have answers. You need information, we have it. You need training, we have it. Virtual courses, informational videos, on-demand webinar recordings like this one, covering topics from CMMC compliance to zero trust architecture. We've got all of that. Make sure you're thinking of us as your cybersecurity support system. We're here to help you navigate these complex requirements with practical tools and expert guidance. And along with the practical tools that you're learning about today, what are some of the other ones? Here you go. We've got templates, we've got advisory services, we've got toolkits, we've got cyber readiness dashboards, SPUR score generation and uploads, remediation plan template, cybersecurity training and education, like this webinar, cybersecurity blogs, news items, Project Spectrum briefings. Again, it's all here for the taking. Registering costs you nothing. It costs absolutely nothing to register. Then you get access to things. And once you get access, you're going to want more access. And you're going to start rolling down that hill because it's going to snowball. And the next thing you know, you're going to be CMMC compliant and you're going to say, hey, that really did help. We want to make sure that we are giving you every opportunity to be compliant. So all you need to do is get started by visiting projectspectrum.io. You can explore our full resource library, connect with our team of cyber advisors. We are here for you. So we have now reached the time in the presentation where I would like to introduce my amazing colleague, Mark Chisholm, who leads the strategic communications for Project Spectrum. Mark is going to help pose any questions that we want to share with the class and those watching the replay video since they can't see the chat. Remember, there are no dumb questions in cybersecurity. Only really expensive lessons that are learned the hard way, whether you're wondering about specific CMMC requirements, ransomware defense strategies, how to convince your CEO that cybersecurity isn't just an IT problem. Trust me, we are here to help. So, Mark, do we have anything that we want to share with the class?
Thanks, Rick. We are a bit light on questions, but we did just have at least one come through. Doug asks if you could please elaborate on what you mean by unpatched VPNs. What is the attack vector related to this?
Okay, so when we're talking about unpatched VPNs, do we have a cyber advisor who might be able to provide an answer to that? I would like to look to an expert before I start weighing in.
We do have a few on the line here. Maybe they'll jump in the chat for that one.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and answer that one in the chat. But again, you know, one of the things to keep in mind is that when you're talking about all of these things, and again, especially when you're talking about VPNs, right? You've got your private network, you've got the way that, you know, you've got a security token, you got one of those little keys, you've got all the different ways that you can get in there. And what you need to understand is that VPNs can also have vulnerabilities, right? Because nothing is 100% foolproof. You know, again, you take a look at when Microsoft is sending you, oh, we need to authenticate your account. So you've got the Microsoft Authenticator app, but you've also got a way to send a text message, and you've also got a way to send an email. Well, guess what? If somebody's in your systems and they run across that and it says, oh, well, how would you like to receive your security key? And they say, oh, well, I'd like to have that sent to my email because they're running a virtual desktop that has your Outlook on it. That is going to be a problem because they're going to still be able to get in even though you've got that multi-factor authentication because you've got multiple ways. Do I understand we have a cyber advisor who might jump in?
Indeed, I have unmuted Adeleke and he should be able to chime in.
Yes, good afternoon. So what that technically means is, you know, when we say unpatched VPN, we're kind of like talking about, you know, software that have known security vulnerabilities, right? But if you don't have like the current vendor security patches applied or updated, it leaves vulnerability for, you know, attackers to come in, which is why these vulnerabilities are often publicly disclosed, and, you know, attackers can monitor them closely because, you know, the VPN actually sits on the edge of your network. So which is why when security updates are out there, you always need to make sure that your VAS, you get information for the new security patches and releases that are available so that you can apply them over to your network to block any reason to have vulnerabilities within your environment. So
Thank you very much.
So you always don't want to leave tanks to outdated software within your organization, whether on the VPN, anywhere else on your network, right? Your software that you use, you always want to make sure that your software updates are updated every time.
No, and that's an absolutely great point, and thank you so much for bringing that up. And you know, because we all do it, right? How many people have a Google Chrome window right now that at the top says restart to update Chrome, and that's been there for a while? Or how many times have you seen restart needed for your system to update your software or your hardware or whatever it may be, and you're sitting there and you're saying, well, I don't want to do that because I'm in the middle of something, so I'm just going to put that off and I'm going to keep delaying it. Or I'm afraid to update my software because sometimes when I update my software, it causes something else to go goofy. We talked about that on the last cyber circuits as well, where there are people that are absolutely afraid to apply those patches because they think that a patch is going to end up breaking something else. And that just becomes very problematic. It's a very problematic way of thinking. An update exists for a reason, and putting it off means that you are leaving yourself at risk. Drive down to any major inner city and leave your window open on your vehicle when you walk away, and leave a bunch of stuff laying on the front seat that somebody would want to take. It's the same thing. The longer you're away from the vehicle, the more chance there is that stuff is going to get out of your vehicle. So you want to make sure that you are defending yourself as best as you possibly can. Again, anybody who has a question, please go ahead and ask. If we don't get the chance to answer it here, we are more than happy to answer it again in chat, or we can also get in touch with you a different way. So please, by all means, make sure that you are getting in touch with us with any of those questions. Remember, there are no dumb questions with cybersecurity except the ones that you don't ask. So if you want to ask a question later on because you don't want it recorded that you were asking this question, we certainly do understand that. Sometimes that happens. All you have to do is just reach out to us. And so how do you reach out to us? Well, we've got a way to do it. We've got the virtual help desk. I want to make sure that I'm highlighting this before we close, because our virtual help desk is your direct line to Project Spectrum's expert folks, our cyber advisors, our technical folks. All you need to do is go over to our website, and then you've got that little question mark, sort of like orangey yellowish or yellowy orangish or whatever it is that's showing on your screen. All you have to do is click on that on our website. That will connect you with real human experts who understand both the technical challenges and business realities of cybersecurity compliance. Remember, it's kind of like having a cybersecurity hotline that actually answers your calls, doesn't keep you on hold for days and days like some agencies, and provides helpful guidance instead of transferring you to 17 different departments. There are other ways that you can connect with Project Spectrum. Again, if you're not on Project Spectrum, if you're not a registered user, you've got to be. It doesn't cost you a thing. Get to Project Spectrum, register for your free account. We are looking for you there. If you want to send us email, it's kind of like, the electronic version of snail mail these days, but we do answer emails. Just email us at support@projectspectrum.io. Again, look for the training webinars like this one. We have them every single month. We have our cyber circuits that's coming up very soon. Going to be a great discussion. Want to make sure that you are there for it. So make sure that you're joining us. And then you can find us on social media. You can find us on LinkedIn, and you can find us on YouTube. That's where this video is going to live once it gets updated, and all of that information is going to be available. So make sure that you are taking good care of yourself by joining us and asking for our help, because we are more than happy to provide it. All right, so I want to say thank you for joining us today for this deep dive into defending against ransomware in 2025. Don't go anywhere yet. We still got more to go. Remember, cybersecurity, not a destination. It's a journey, and every step you take toward better security makes you a harder target for the bad guys. Now, before you go, I just want to remind you that my colleague Mark is going to drop a survey link in the chat that captures feedback about today's webinar: the good, the bad, the ugly, the terrible dad jokes. Think of it as our performance review, except we actually want honest feedback instead of the usual meets expectations 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Trust me, your input, whether again it's good, it's bad, it's ugly, your input is going to help us shape the future webinars and improve our content. So want to thank you in advance for taking a few minutes to let us know how we did and what topics you'd like to see us cover next. Again, suggest some topics. We are more than happy to either point you to a resource that already exists or develop a whole new webinar for the future. Now, we want you to go away with this thought in mind. Stay vigilant. Stay prepared. Most importantly, stay connected with Project Spectrum as you are navigating the evolving cybersecurity landscape. Together, we are going to build stronger defenses and protect what matters most to your organization, because the cyber threat landscape may be challenging, but with the right knowledge, the right tools, and the right support, you are going to find yourself well equipped to face whatever digital villains come your way. So make sure you are utilizing us as your shield, your cape, your suit of armor, your hammer that brings down the magic lightning, and whatever other Marvel tchotchkes you want to sort of throw in there. Thank you again so much on behalf of the entire Project Spectrum team. Thank you to our cyber advisors, to our leadership who joined us. Thank you to our communications folks. Thank you to everybody. And thank you to all of our attendees. We again appreciate your time today. Stay secure. And remember, in cybersecurity, paranoia is not a disorder. It is a survivor skill. For the Project Spectrum team, my name is Rick. It has been a pleasure hosting you today. I'm going to give you a couple minutes back in your day. Thanks again. We wish you the absolute best of success in your cybersecurity journey, and we look forward to talking to you again very soon.